to another AnyRPG Development Livestream. In these videos, I livestream the development of the AnyRPG Engine, a free and open source role-playing game engine designed in Unity and written in C#. If you don't already have a copy of AnyRPG, you can pick one up from anyrpg.org/downloads in Unity package and source code format. You can also find free copies of any of the games that I work on at the same page. In this episode, we will be adding in a new enemy for our War of the Magi cutscene, and it's going to be this skeleton PBR animated low poly free asset from the Unity asset store. This asset needs a little bit of cleanup when you import it in order to get it to work properly in Unity. So I will be demonstrating what steps you need to take in order to clean up the animations so that this unit works properly. And you can see a lot of reviews here about the problems with it. By the time we're done this episode, we'll have him all configured properly, and you'll see that it's actually a pretty good asset if you're willing to put in the work. Now, let's go ahead and just import this because I want to demonstrate exactly the process that you're going to have to go through right from the start if you import this guy. So I'm going to click on the import button here and just import everything that comes with him. And now I should have a folder here, skeleton animated and low polygon. I'm just going to pull it into this import folder here. And for our game, I'm going to call him the Fallen Comrade. Now, one of the reasons that I like this guy so much is he can rise from when a farmer used a water spell, some pink stuff went over and turned some rocks into like rock monsters. And what I want to do in this case is I want actually it to be a skeleton on the ground, and then I want the skeleton to come back to life and use this animation. Now, one thing that you might notice right now is that this guy's legs are like part way through the ground. So this is part of the problems with the animations for this unit, and we're just going to go basically clean this stuff up now. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to just hit Control D to duplicate the skeleton animated. I want to keep one of the originals around, and as always make changes to my own copy of this so I know that this is the copy that I've worked on and fixed up here. And the next thing we want to do is just to demonstrate what the problem with this unit is. I'm going to just pull this temporarily into the scene right now, and then we'll just zoom in and look at it. So you can see pretty much if you look at this unit's structure, for some reason his center is up here, but his pivot is like down by his knees, and that's actually what's causing all of the problems with the animation. So in order to fix that, there's a pretty easy fix. Let's just delete this from here. We'll go into the skeleton animated R version of it, and we'll go to the rig, and we'll just switch the rig to humanoid and hit apply. And you can pretty much just ignore this message right here. It doesn't really seem to have any effect. It's just like the spine rotation is a little bit weird. So then we're going to go into the animations folder here, and as you can see, we've got this death animation right here, and it starts with the guy's legs halfway through the ground. So the first thing we're going to do to fix that one up is I'm just going to bake into the pose. I'm not going to bake into the pose the Y value, but I am going to set the original to feet, and then I'm going to bake in everything else, hit apply. And now let's take a look at this animation. There we go, it's working. So one of the things you'll notice as well about this asset is that the animations actually need a little bit of fixing up here. You can see this hit animation actually starts with him on the ground, and then he like jumps up and gets hit while kind of his like waist is halfway through the ground. So there's a couple things that we need to do to fix that. First of all, if you look at the death animation here, you can see that this one ends at frame 48 and the hit starts at 48. You can never have, or never should have, basically the last frame of one animation be the first frame of another animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here and we're going to start this at frame 49 instead. And now you can see he's standing up at the top. So let's go ahead and just change the original to feet. Remember, don't be baking that in. If you do click that, it actually, you know what? I think this actually works for some things, specifically the resurrection animation it doesn't work for though, and that's because the unit actually changes height during the animation, and Unity, I think, just doesn't know what to do about that. So now let's look at the hit animation and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's not bad. It seems to be working pretty good. So now let's go to the hit 2 animation, and you'll notice that in this one, let's see, so this one has the same thing. It's sort of ending at the frame that the other one started at. Let's go to the end of this one because I just want to see this idle one where this is supposed to start at. So this looks pretty good actually, frame 190. He looks pretty idle there. He's not like wobbling around. So let's go back to frame 190 of the hit 2 animation and just check at the very end here. He just kind of goes back to idle right about there. So I think maybe what we want to do with the hit 2 is end that one at frame 189 because there shouldn't be any overlap between these animations. And for hit 1, hit 2, let's see if we start hit 2 at frame 99. Yeah, I think that looks a little better. So I think hit is supposed to go from 49 to 98. That looks pretty good. And then hit 2. Oops, wrong button. Try that again with the right play button here. Alright, and Unity is doing, I'm not sure what. Okay, there we go. Nope, still doing, I'm not sure what. Okay, finally. So, going back to hit 2, press play, put that in a full screen. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay. The next thing that we'll want to do is just make sure that we've baked in the right stuff into here. So the position looks fine. For hit 2, we will set the original to feet, so he's standing at the right location there. Apply that and hit play, and that looks okay. Alright, next up, idle animation. So idle animation starts at 190, runs till 460. That's actually a really long idle loop. So set the original to based upon feet and bake everything in there. And then let's just see, the end of it looks okay, I think. We'll want to loop pose and loop time. And actually, before we loop pose here, let's just take a look at the pose. So in this one, he's standing pretty much with his left arm a little bit in front, I think. Okay, here we go. You can see that he's like moving a little bit in this last frame. So with this one, what we actually want to do is we want to end this one at frame 459. Because this was his out of combat idle, and this was his in combat idle. So let's apply that. And then just pull this animation through to the end here. There we go, and now it loops perfectly. So now we can choose loop pose on that one and hit apply. next up we want idle 2. And from this point on, basically, it was only the start ones where we had to mess with the start times. From this point on, I'm pretty sure they were all the animations just had to have their end pulled back by 1. So instead of 568, let's just see what happens if we hit that to 567. Nothing really much, but let's see. Yeah, it loops properly, so that looks good. And then bake in that, set that to feet so he's standing up properly, and bake in that and hit apply. For idle hold sword, let's just go to the end of it here and see if it looks like it's looping funny. Yeah, it totally is. So we want the same thing. We just want to pull back the end frame from 627 to 626. And apply everything there. And then loop time and loop pose. And then for jump, we want to remove the last frame because you can see that the last frame is actually the start of the resurrection. So for jump, we're going to go to 639 as the last frame. Set that to baked off of feet, hit apply, and then let's just watch the jump there. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So then for resurrection, I think the same thing. I think at the end of resurrection, we'll want it to be frame 813 potentially. Yeah, because he starts to move forward here and run. So we'll set the end frame here to frame 813. And in this case, I'm going to bake this stuff in, and I'm going to set the original to feet and hit apply. And then let's just look at it there, and he rises up and properly off the ground and doesn't try to run at the end of it. Great, so that one's fixed now. So then we want to go to the run loop, and I'm pretty sure the run loop will probably have the exact same issue here. We'll just want to switch that to 830. Yeah, because he starts to fall down at the end. Perfect, so we'll switch that end frame to 830, and then base that off of the feet, bake in everything else, and let's just watch that. His foot, it does kind of make a jump here a little bit forward at the end, but there's not really much we can do about that because that frame 831 is definitely the start of the stand-up. Yeah, okay, so we can just go loop time and loop pose, and then let's just apply that and then have a look and see if it looks any better from hitting the loop pose. Yeah, that's way better actually. There's like, I think maybe a little bit of a pause. Let's watch this loop. Yeah, it's a little bit messed up, but it'll work. So then we want to go to the stand-up, and I'm willing to bet this one probably has a bad end frame too. Yeah, so we'll set the end frame on this one to 890 instead. And then bake in everything except for the Y, set that to feet, hit apply. And then let's just watch this. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then stand up 2, we'll do the same thing. Fix the end frame, so 951. everything except for y, but set y to feet. And then let's have a look at that. Looks pretty good. Then we'll go to stand up 3 and likely move the end frame back to 980. Yeah, because the next one's a walking backwards, so 980 on the end frame there. Bake in everything except for y, set y to feet, hit apply. And this is actually cool. This is actually getting up from a chair, which is like really cool because you don't see that actually in a lot of Unity packages. So swing heavy, willing to bet we need to fix the end frame probably. Yeah, so we'll just set that to 1012 as the end frame. Bake in everything except for y, set y to feet, hit apply. And let's have a look. Yep, that looks pretty good. So then swing normal. I think I'll just set that to 1102. Bake in everything except for the y, set the y to feet, hit apply. And let's watch that. Okay, pretty good. Swing quick. Watch that one. And we'll set the end frame to 1142. Bake in everything except for y, set y to feet, hit apply. That's pretty good, I think. So then we'll fix up his walk loop as well. Very likely we have a messed up frame at the end of the walk loop, so we will set that to 1174. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Bake in everything except for y, set y to feet so he's at the right height. Hit apply, and let's watch that. Yep, I'm happy with that. Go to walk 02. Likely fix the end frame to 1203. Bake in everything except for y, hit y to feet, hit apply. And then that looks pretty good, so we'll make sure loop time and loop pose are both checked, hit apply on that. And actually, I think walk 01, I think I forgot to do loop time and loop pose as well, so we'll apply both of those. Now we'll fix walk back, which likely needs its end frame set. Yeah, his arms kind of drop at the end there, so this will be 1238. I'll just bake in everything except for y, set the y value to feet, apply that, click on loop time, watch the animation. That loop looks pretty good. I don't see any issues with it, so we'll hit loop pose, hit apply, and then walk left. We'll likely have to set the end frame to 1270. Doesn't look actually like there's too much of an issue with it, but I'm just going to do that anyway because that's been working for us so far. Set y to feet, bake in everything else. Open this thing up, press play. Yep, looks pretty good. And then walk right. Yeah, gonna set the end frame to 1302. Set y to feet and apply. And actually, to be honest, I don't think we actually want to bake in the position to this one. Let's try that. Because with the walk ones, yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter. and the important thing there is feet. We won't actually be using these, so we don't actually even need them. Just as an NPC, the only thing he'll be doing is like resurrecting and walking forward pretty much, but I like to have them all there anyway, because at some point in the future I may or will make it so that our character can jump into the bodies of different enemies. So looking at cast spell here, looks like I want to change the end frame there likely to 1308, which makes everything match a lot better. We're going to bake in everything, set the Y value to feet, and then let's just have a look at this animation. So yeah, interesting, that's a really short spell cast. Begin jump, let's see, very likely this one will need to be set to 1315 to work. We're going to base Y on feet, hit apply. I'll keep the rotation. Let's just see, is this a jump in spot or a running jump? It's kind of a running jump. Yeah. Alright. So we'll apply that, and then go to the jump loop. Very likely this is only supposed to be 1317. Set that to feet, hit apply, and okay, interesting jump loop. I guess I'll just keep that for now. And then land from jump. We want to base that on the feet, hit apply, and let's just take a look. Yeah, I guess that's okay. Alright, so now that we have all those animations fixed up, we need to actually make a prefab for him that's based on this rig and everything. So we're going to pull that into the scene, then we're going to drag it out into prefab over here, make an original prefab, and we will call that the AnyRPG Fallen Comrade model. We're going to open up the Fallen Comrade model here, uncheck apply root motion, add a component, and this will be a character animation event receiver. Then we're going to jump out of there, and we'll have to go make an actual unit for him which uses this new model. So to do that, I think I actually even have a skeleton worker unit already, which was what I was previously calling this guy. I'm just going to hit F2 and rename that actually to Fallen Comrade Unit. And then we're going to open it up, and we are going to add that model. So we'll look for the Fallen Comrade model and pull it into here. And there he is. So the next thing that we want to do, his feet are kind of through the ground, but I think that'll actually be fixed up once we animate him, because the animation should like pull him above the ground, I hope. So we'll go into the Fallen Comrade unit here, and we'll have to create an animation profile for him. We'll make his character class warrior. Everything else looks okay except for this should say Fallen Comrade, and faction name is Undead is fine. To make sure that we can actually spawn him, we'll have to make a Fallen Comrade unit profile. let's just see, he's got combat ability manager, everything else I think looks okay. Combat strategy, I don't even think honestly that we need to give him one because he's just going to have an auto attack for starters. I'm not going to actually have him cast any spells to start. So let's get started with the creation of those other things. So let's start with the animation profile. So if we go into a Lost Soul resources, we've got animation profiles in here and AI animation profiles. So I will create a new AnyRPG animation profile and we'll call this Fallen Comrade. Set the name to Fallen Comrade and let's lock the inspector there. Scroll down a little bit and go down to where we have the character that we made here, the AnyRPG skeleton animated. We don't really need to add the jump clips, but you know, what the heck, actually they exist, so why not? So under the jump clip we'll add that. Under the fall clip we will add jump loop. Under the land clip we will add land from jump. Under the idle clip we'll add idle 1. Under the combat idle we will add idle 2. Under the move forward clip we will add walk 1. Under the move forward fast clip we will add run. Under the combat move forward clip we will add walk 2. And under the combat move forward fast clip we will add run. Might as well add the walk backwards clips since they actually do exist. So for move back clip we'll add the walk back. For strafe left clip we'll add walk left. For strafe right clip we will add walk right. We don't really have to worry about these stand-ups, however we do want to add the death clip, so we'll pull the death clip down into death. And actually I think begin jump is the one we want at the start of the jump, because that other jump was actually a full jump. So begin jump, jump loop, land from jump, that's right. Okay, good. And finally, he doesn't really have a stunned loop or anything like that, but we do want to give him a revive clip, which is this resurrection clip right here. So that's good enough for his animations. Now we want to give him an attack. He's got these, let's just go take a look at those here. We'll unlock the inspector now and just go look at his attacks. So he does a swing right here, another swing right there, and another swing right there. Now what's interesting about these swings is that these are actually sword swings. However, he doesn't have a sword. Which seems like a little bit strange. Let's open up his model here and just check if there's maybe like a hidden sword on him or something. I totally don't see anything that looks like a hidden sword. And we don't see any sword. Let's check like weapon. Nothing like that. And no hidden meshes. I guess when he attacks, we've got actually lots of swords that we could potentially give him. So it looks like we'll actually have to make a sword for him, but that's totally fine because I think I have a nice sword, a cutlass, something like that. We've got like a nice cutlass we can give him basically already. So let's go back to his unit here and see, now that we've created an animation profile for him, we'll assign that. So Fallen Comrade as the animation profile. And the next thing that we need to do is make a unit profile for him because we don't have that yet. So I'll just go find any existing unit profile, like this Frost Lich right here. Control D to duplicate. We'll call this Fallen Comrade and set the resource name to Fallen Comrade, a fallen soldier. Next up, we will set the unit prefab to Fallen Comrade Unit. And I'm not actually going to give him any learned abilities quite yet. We'll do that in a little bit. So now we have to create one more object for him. Actually, I don't think we do. I think that's it actually for now. Okay, so let's actually just see, make sure he can spawn and make sure he can like idle and combat idle. That's actually all I really want for now. So we're just going to hit delete, remove that temporary object that we created. And actually for his unit profile, Fallen Comrade, you know what? We have to give him a better icon because this is still set to Frost Lich icon. Pretty sure I have one just called Skull icon. Let's just take a look and see what the skull icon is set to. Yeah, perfect. It's set to this, which is good. It's pretty much exactly what I want. So now we will go make him spawnable. So AnyRPG ATM. We'll go in there and we'll add his unit. We'll add 14th and set it to Fallen Comrade. Let's save that and just load up the game and just make sure that we can spawn him and make sure that his character isn't sinking through the ground. That's actually what I'm most concerned about, just because of all the work that has to go into sort of fixing this unit up. So we'll load the game. Go to the automated telemonster machine, click on our Fallen Comrade. That's pretty good. He looks like he's idle in there. His idle loop looks okay. We'll want to set his unit frame target and set the height of his model to like y+1 or something like that, because you'll see how we're looking at his feet by default. So let's just go fix those two things right now. So we'll go back to the Fallen Comrade unit here, and actually let's just open him up and do a search for a head. So let's see, he's got a Bippo1 head 1 and a Bippo1 head 2, which is kind of interesting. I think we'll use head 1. So I'm going to hit F2, copy that, go back to his unit here, and open up his character unit, set the unit frame target to that value, and set the Z to 0.66, which means we'll be 2/3 of a meter away from him looking back at his face. For the player preview initial value, we'll set the Y to 1 so that we'll be looking more at like his waist instead of his feet. That should be good for making him work in the preview manager there. Let's just press play. We'll load the game up. the Telemonster machine. Go look at the fallen comrade. Wow, this guy's really short. I think, to be totally honest, I think he's actually like a quarter of a meter tall or something like that. I'm just gonna spawn him in at level 1 and go, wow, he is so small. Look at him, yeah, cool. Okay, so the good news is, like, his walk animations work. It actually looks really good. It's kind of neat that he's so tiny. He looks really cool, actually, just this little tiny skeleton chasing me around like that. I kind of like it. Wow. Okay. However, we want him to be sort of a little not midget skeleton. So I'm assuming he'll probably be 4 times as big by default. He looks like about a quarter of a meter tall. Let's actually just go into the scene here and look at the fallen comrade. There's the unit. I'll hit F to focus on him, and I want to look at his capsule collider. So yeah, he's needs to be made 4 times bigger. So to make him 4 times bigger, we can go into the fallen, actually, fallen comrade model. We want to go back to our skeleton animated here, and instead of scale factor 0.01, I think we want scale factor 0.04. Actually, you know what I want to try? If we convert the units 1 inch to 0.254 meters, let's just hit apply. And then I want to pull this guy into the scene here for a second and just see if he got like smaller or bigger. He got like way tiny. Yeah, okay. So didn't want to do that. Let's just delete that out of the scene, go back in here. I think I'm just going to try 0.04. Let's apply that. I'm going to have to actually make a new prefab for him because the old prefab was actually based off of this 0.04 height. So I am going to pull this new guy into the scene. And then we'll pull him out into the prefab directory here, make an original prefab of him. Delete the old AnyRPG Fallen Comrade model. Rename this to AnyRPG Fallen Comrade model. Go back to the AnyRPG Fallen Comrade, no, just Fallen Comrade unit. And actually, you know what? I'm going to rename that just a Fallen Comrade model. It doesn't need to be named AnyRPG. Fallen Comrade is fine. So we'll go into the Fallen Comrade unit, we will delete the unit, we will pull in the new Fallen Comrade model. Which for some reason still looks really small. Let's add that character animation event receiver. Apply it to the model, pull down the unit. And I want to go test that because he still looks so tiny. Okay, that's really interesting. So now it's just his bone structure. Okay. I don't know what happened there. That's really interesting. Let's reopen that fallen comrade unit. Oh, there we go. Okay, so, wow, that guy is way too small. Yeah, that's why we're only seeing his bone structure and not him. Okay, so I think somehow I messed that up and made him way smaller than he's supposed to be instead of making him bigger. So let's delete the fallen comrade model out of there. Delete this fallen comrade model. Go back to our skeleton. Oh, you know why? That's why, because I forgot and accidentally left that convert units box checked. Okay. Actually, interestingly enough, let's leave the convert units box checked and just set his scale factor to 1 and hit apply. I just want to see what size that sets him to. And then actually let's just pull him directly on there. So, you know what? That's perfect. Actually, that's all we needed to do, because looking at that 0.254 thing, I was like, well, that's basically like a 1/4 setting, and our guy was off by like a factor of 4 pretty much. So as soon as this feat gets pulled up by the animation, he'll be about 1.8 meters tall, about the same size as our character. That is exactly what we are looking for. So I'll pull this guy over here into prefab, click on original prefab. Whoops, let's go back there. We will rename that the fallen comrade model. Then we'll rename this fallen comrade model. Uncheck apply root motion. Actually, it doesn't really matter because that's handled by the script right here, and that'll override it anyway. Then apply that to the fallen comrade model. And now we should have a good unit. Okay. Let's save everything and jump back into the game and make sure that we've got a good unit now. Now we have no unit, interestingly enough. I don't know what happened there. So we'll go back. Everything looks okay. Let's go back to the fallen comrade unit. Open up the prefab. He looks fine. His layer is character unit, which is the correct layer. The model looks okay. Everything else looks okay. If we go to the fallen comrade unit profile, it's still referencing the right character, the fallen comrade unit. Let's just go take a look at something else here. I'm going to go into the angry reanimated bunny unit, and I want to see if I have my cartoon rabbit set to character unit. Yeah, I think that's the problem. I need to actually go set my model so that the entire thing is on the character unit layer. Otherwise, it's not going to show up basically, and I think that is what is happening. So we want to go to the Fallen Comrade model. We'll open that up. We'll set the layer to character unit, and yes, change children. Let's save that and just press play. Okay, I'm still not seeing the Fallen Comrade, which is a little bit odd. Let's press pause here and look for the Fallen Comrade. So if I hit F to focus on him, and let's hit F to focus on his model. Okay, so this is really strange right here. Basically, his bone structure is tremendously huge compared to the capsule collider, and that's not what I was observing inside of the original model, which is really strange. So I wonder if this has anything, no, it wouldn't have anything to do with the avatar. Let's see. When we updated the skeleton size, I see what happened there. Updating the skeleton size somehow ended up messing with the animations, like destroying them. That that's kind of interesting. So let's uncheck convert units and hit apply. Okay, that's a little better. So I suppose the way to fix this is basically have the model based off of not converting units and a 0.04 scale factor. That was really odd because what happened is when we converted this, it actually set the model size properly, but the animations were messed up. So I think this means actually we're going to have to go ahead and create another model for this, pretty much based off of this new setup here. So I'm going to pull this guy into the scene here, then I'm going to pull him out into the prefabs directory, click on original prefab, go back to the prefab, delete the Fallen Comrade model with the wrong animation size here, click on this, rename it to Fallen Comrade model, and then we want to go find our Fallen Comrade unit. We'll go back to the Fallen Comrade unit and we'll delete the old missing Fallen Comrade model. Then we'll grab the new Fallen Comrade has the right size and animations. Okay, actually this guy's really big, huh? Yeah, now he's huge. He's gonna be like 2.5 meters tall or something like that. That's okay though. Let's go see what he looks like at 2.5 meters tall. I don't really mind as long as he's actually animated and not like 5 inches tall. So then we'll go back down to the Fallen Comrade model here, add our character animation event receiver, apply it, pull down the character unit there, and let's go load the game after we delete this temporary one right here. Save everything, press play. Okay, that's a lot better. So now we've got a guy who's like pretty big, but at least properly animated. Let's spawn him. He's got a really funny run animation, but I think it's just the fact that it actually is literally a funny run animation. I really like this guy, actually. He's really detailed. He looks pretty big and scary. I suppose in the end, I probably actually could have maybe set his scale to like 0.3 or something like that, potentially. But this is not bad. His feet are floating like a little bit above the ground, but I think that's actually due to like where the nav mesh is, or potentially it's actually just due to the fact that his animations are really weird and we had to base his animator on his feet. Either way, I'm okay with that. Looks a little funny, but the next thing we want to do is basically make this guy raise himself from the dead. So, wow, his feet are really like moving back and forth there. There might be a way to fix that. Let's let's just go look at those animations. So he was in his combat idle, which is idle 2. So let's go look at his idle 2 animation here and just see. Yeah, okay, so he is. His feet are like wavering back and forth. We kept his root transform rotation. Hey, by slow him, do you mean like change the number of frames per second of the animation? Let's set this to baked on original here. I think, let's see, if I go to the animation tab, I think there is a way to do that. I'm not really sure. Animation is totally not like something that I'm super great at. I'm definitely still learning with this. It took me a while even just to figure out this guy. I think like if I export the animation, I can change the number of samples per second. Yeah, because these are read-only basically, and like if you wanted to slow down or speed up the animation, you could probably change the samples per second here. The one reason that I don't like exporting animations and making independent ones, because I used to do that, was because if you have to mess around with the size of the unit like this, if I just change this value in here, all of these animations auto update. But if I export these animations and make them into independent, like outside of this thing, then anytime that I adjust the scale, that doesn't get applied to the independent animations. Yeah. So let's just check if what I did actually even helped. Yeah. This isn't totally a tutorial. Kind of. I actually prefix the ones that are like direct tutorials or postfix them with AnyRPG tutorial, just to indicate that those are like super focused. With something like this, there's a little bit of trial and error to it. So, um, anyway, yeah. For idle here, let's check here. So for idle 1 and idle 2, I am just gonna make that to original. And let's do the same thing here to original. Hit apply, and let's actually just play that animation now. His feet are still moving, but kind of back and forth. It's weird. I'm going to try turning off IK, and yeah, it's just as bad. I don't think really there's much that I could do about that, to be totally honest. So I'm just going to leave that anyway. I think it's potential, like if this guy has root motion, if we look here, it says root motion node. I don't know if this thing actually contains root motion in it. If it has root motion, it might be able to do something a little better with his feet. But for now, I think I'll be happy with this. Let's actually just hit OK, bake that in with his feet, hit play. Yeah, they're still waving around there. Okay, yeah, for now I think I'm okay with his idle animation. Now let's get started on the really fun part of this, which is going to be making this guy dead and raising him from the dead. So to do that, we need to actually get a character model for him that's actually like laying over and dead. So there's a cheap little way that we can accomplish this. We'll go into the folder here, we'll click plus, and we'll make a new animation for him. His resurrection starts at 640, so we can just make this new animation just called dead, and we'll make it from 640 to 641. Set that to feet, bake these guys in, and hit apply. Now if you look at it, this is the first frame of his resurrection, so he's just laying here on his stomach basically. What I want to do is to sort of cheat for a second. I am going to go back into his animation profile. So we'll go to the Fallen Comrade animation profile here. And I'm going to set his combat, actually both his idle clip and his combat idle clip to those dead animation ones. So I'll just pull out dead here and move it over on top of idle. And I will pull out dead and move it over on top of combat idle. This will basically just make him lying on the ground dead by default. And that will give me the ability to actually get a version of him who looks dead and just use it like a prop, sort of. Although we will have the ability to resurrect him. So let's go to load up the game, because I actually need to load the game to do this. I checked and there isn't really a great, fantastic way to do this in the inspector, because unfortunately what happens is by default the unit is set to whatever the first frame of the first animation is, and Unity doesn't allow you to do anything about that. So there he is, lying on the ground dead. That's his idle pose now, which is pretty much perfect. So let's pause the game, and we're going to go find his body here, Fallen Comrade Unit, Fallen Comrade Model. I'm going to go to the scene and click F to look at him. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to pull that out and make a new prefab for him. Then I'm going to jump out of the game and go and look at that, and we'll call that the Fallen Comrade Dead model. Now, the really cool thing about this Fallen Comrade Dead model is he has the exact same bone structure and avatar as the other guy, it's just his default pose is dead. So what this means is that we can actually use him now as the base model for our character, and theoretically everything will still work fine. Let's just go confirm that, because it's actually pretty important that this assumption is correct. So we'll go look at the Fallen Comrade unit here. We will open up his prefab. We will delete the existing Fallen Comrade model. We'll pull on the fallen comrade dead model to him. And now his default pose is dead. So let's save the game, and we're going to go back and fix his animation profile now, because now we have our dead model, basically, so we don't need his animation profile to be messed up anymore. I'm going to lock the inspector and pull back the proper idle animations onto it. So we're going to pull idle onto idle, and we're going to pull idle 2 onto combat idle. Great. Now we can save that, and let's just confirm that our dead model can properly be animated. Okay, awesome. So we have a dead model by default, but as soon as we apply animations, he works. Kind of. Alright. So he is completely invisible, which is kind of interesting. Let's go see if we can figure out what's wrong with him and why he is invisible. So that's really interesting that he actually showed up properly in the preview, but he's dead, like on the ground right here. And not being properly animated here. And also it's really interesting that my camera can't see him right now. His layer is currently set to unit preview. And that seems a little bit wrong. That would probably be why I can't see him. Okay, now he's standing up, but his layer is still set to unit preview, which is really weird. It's like for some reason it actually cloned his unit preview rather than cloning the right model. If I set this to character unit and allow it to change the children, now you can see he's actually working. So that was really strange. I'm not sure whether that was like a one-off error or not, but that was definitely sort of strange behavior. Let's try that again. I'm kind of interested to see like what happened there basically, because I've never seen anything like that before. Oh, you know what? Actually, I think I know why. When I cloned the unit, that, okay, yes, I know exactly why, actually. When I cloned the unit, I cloned him, the Fallen Comrade dead model here. I cloned him actually off of the unit preview, so of course his unit layer is unit preview by default. This has to be character by default. Our camera automatically culls the unit preview layer to avoid rendering it, because we shouldn't be able to see it on our main camera. So that would definitely explain why our main camera was not looking at him. Let's press play again. And I think that should work a little better this time. Okay, so we have Fallen Comrade, and there we go. That's way better. Okay, cool. So now we can use our dead model, and we can get him to come up and attack us. So next step is when we spawn him, we actually want him to spawn on the ground dead and stay unanimated in his dead pose. So to do that, we actually need to add some new functionality to the engine. Couple of little tweaks. First, our character, which in this case is the skeleton, which is inheriting from the character class, has this prevent auto despawn right here. I'm going to add a new flag in there, and we can find that in AI character and base character actually. No, you know what? I'll just add it to AI character for now. Actually, no, I will add it to base character, just to make things easier. So we'll add a new serialized field down here in the base character class. We're going to have it as a protected bool spawn dead, because hey, maybe you want your player to spawn dead and do some interesting animation thing with them as part of your story. So this is pretty self-explanatory. Should this character start the game dead? And of course by default it's going to be false, because I think this is really an edge case when you actually want to start the game dead for the most part. So to start the game dead, we just have to basically change what state the unit starts in. So you can see here we have change state, idle state, and what we can do instead is just change it to a death state. So to do that, we just want to check if base character does not equal null and base character dot, and then we'll actually need to make a property to expose this. So quick actions and refactoring, encapsulate it, change that back to protected. Whoops, I just made a property for the wrong one. Okay, let's try that again. Spawn dead, quick actions and refactorings, encapsulate it, change that back to protected, rename that, and change this to public. I'm going to save that now, and then in my AI controller, if my spawn dead is true, then by default your state will be death state. Otherwise, your state will be idle state. And if we go to death state, you can see that on entry, we stop our navmesh agent, we disable our character motor, we disable aggro, and we clear our current target, reset our combat strategy, and then try to despawn. So what I want to do is I want to prevent auto despawn on the fallen comrade, because otherwise he'll just despawn immediately upon death, because he doesn't really have any loot. He is a lootable character, but we don't have any loot tables for him. So we're going to check spawn dead, and we're going to check prevent auto despawn here. Let's save that, and then the next thing that we need to do is I want to actually have his animator disabled by default. because that should prevent him from actually going like into an animated state. So let's open him up here, go to the Fallen Comrade Dead model, and just disable the animator by default. And now let's start the game. If I click on the Fallen Comrade, he's lying on the ground dead. If I spawn him, he lies on the ground dead and then comes flying over towards me right away. Okay, this is great because he is actually indeed in death state. I think, maybe. It's interesting that he's following me around. So I think there's a little bit of other stuff that we need to do as well in order to make him dead. I'm interested to see here if he ever actually exited death state, because he may have actually exited it and tried to go into follow state. So I'm going to add a debug here and just do death state.exit. He shouldn't have aggroed me, but he might have, basically because that ran in the start method actually, then his aggro might have actually been active before that. So let's go to the definition of disable aggro and go to the definition of disable aggro, and we basically just set enabled to false on the collider. I have a feeling that's why he auto aggroed me. So let's just go disable his aggro collider as well. So if we go to the Fallen Comrade model, actually we want to do this on the unit. If we go to aggro range and just disable the collider and save that and press play, let's just see if he doesn't aggro me immediately upon spawn. Huh, no, he's still. But he did exit death state. Let's just look at the stack trace here. And we actually did a change state. As a result of an update, yeah, okay, so there's one more thing we have to do basically to keep him dead, and that's set his death state in the character stats, because usually what happens is the character stats actually passes the fact that he's dead back. If we find all references to this die method, you can actually see where we call it. We have this function here called die, which basically just sets is alive to false. So what we actually want to do here is we want to set is alive to false by default, and I actually want maybe even to change his health down to 0 as well. So I think to do this, I actually want to make a new method, because we don't want to trigger events. We don't want to like broadcast that we died. There's a whole pile of stuff that goes on there that we just want to avoid doing. So I'm going to make a public virtual void, and we're not going to call this die. We're just going to call this, I don't even know what's a good name for it. How about spawn dead? We can always rename this later. For now, basically this is just helping us spawn dead. So pretty much is alive equals false, and basically that's all we need to do. Let's also set the health down to 0. So we'll just take these two calls that are reset health, and we'll set current health equals 0, and then let's see who's subscribed to that. So we're going to go to the definition of onHealthChanged and find all references and see who subscribes to it. So we update our health bar. If we're a player, we attempt regen, and we update the unit frame. So that's fine. There's nothing wrong with calling that onHealthChanged method, basically. So now we need to call spawn dead, basically. So let's see. When we start, we get this orchestrator start method. This is probably the best place to do it. We'll have all our references right here, which will give us our reference back to our base character. You can see we grab that right here. So we might as well do that, basically. So if base character does not equal null, and base character dot my spawn dead is true, whoops, then we just want to spawn dead. That should mean that when we perform that alive check, in the death state update method, that our character will not be considered alive, will not come back to life, will not aggro, etc. So we'll just let everything compile. And press play. And then let's go spawn our fallen comrade. Okay, awesome, 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 awesome. His aggro collider is completely disabled, and now he's just going to lay there totally dead. Apparently, the method that sets his health and sets his level runs after we disabled all his health and made him dead. That's fine though, honestly. I don't really care, because we don't really care that he has 0 health for now. What I do want to do now is make us resurrect him and make him use that awesome animation that he has. So to do that, we'll actually want to go find our animator, because right now you have to have actually entered the death trigger in order to be able to perform the resurrection animation, and we need to switch that and change that. So we have the AnyRPG star anim character animation controller. Okay, so right here we have death over to revive, and basically we don't want that. We pretty much want to just be able to do any state to revive. So what I want to do basically is, let's see, start on any state, make a transition over to revive. Can I copy this transition's properties? No, apparently not. Okay, not really a big deal. Any state to revive needs revive trigger. And let's see, how about is dead set to false? You know what? Let's just remove that for now. We'll just go with just revive trigger. I want to copy the settings pretty much exactly from this one, so actually, you know what? We don't need an exit time. I think for this, actually, I want a 0 transition duration. If I check has exit time and set it to no, okay, that's not what I want. I think we just want fixed duration of 0. Basically, whatever state he's in, we just want to move him straight into the resurrection phase. Okay, I think that's okay. So now, theoretically, we should be able to revive him. Now we need to actually make a spell that can revive enemies. So let's go do that. The best thing we have is a revive AoE. So let's just see. We have a resurrection AoE. Maybe it was called revive AoE. Perfect. We have a spell called revive AoE. We'll basically just use that for now. So the AoE effect here will hit people with an ability that will revive them. So we're going to have this effect actually cast off of another spell, and the reason we're going to do that is basically every time the players use magic, it's going to cast like these projectiles out, which will go find dead enemies and revive them. It's going to look really cool. I'm going to call this the Magic Resurrection. Actually, let's just call it the Magic Revive AoE. That's good enough. So our Magic Revive AoE doesn't require any targets. It's gonna, spawn from the caster with an AoE radius of 30. That's pretty good. And instead of doing revive effect, it's going to cast a different ability called Magic Revive Projectile. So we already have, I believe, a cloud projectile, a pink magic cloud projectile. Let's copy that. revive projectile. So the magic revive projectile requires a dead target and is only castable on enemies. It has a pink magic cloud prefab and moves at 2 meters per second. So this is exactly the same magic cloud that we used in our farmer cutscene that we made, but now the only thing that we want to do is at the end of this, we want to perform a revival on our enemy. But this one will be called the magic revive. Actually, I think magic revive is just good enough. So let's look at our revive effect. And we have this necromancy revive effect, which is actually perfect. This is exactly what I want to copy. So I'm going to hit Control D. This is going to be called the magic revive effect. It requires a target. The target has to be dead. It has to be an enemy. We are not going to hit them with any ability effects. We are going to put a black magic ring underneath them. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now what we want to do is basically whenever we cast a spell, for example Thunderstorm, we want to revive an enemy. So let's go to the Thunderstorm ability. And our Thunderstorm ability is going to hit with a Thunderstorm AoE, but it's also going to hit with a Magic Revive AoE. Which means every time we cast this, we're going to do some damage, but we're also going to revive a dead enemy nearby. So then if we look at the Magic Revive AoE, just to make sure this is all configured properly, on hit, we are going to do a magic revive projectile instead. The projectile will fly out from the caster towards the enemy. And this actually, let me just make sure these are all named properly. Magic revive AoE. We'll call this one needs to be named Magic Revive Effect, and this one needs to be named Magic Revive Projectile. Okay, good. So then our Magic Revive AoE casts our Magic Revive Projectile, which only targets dead enemies, sends a pink magic cloud at them. When the pink magic cloud reaches them and hits them, it will cast Magic Revive. So we're just going to name that Magic Revive. And Magic Revive puts a magic ring black under them, and by virtue of being a resurrect effect, it will resurrect them. Okay, I think we have everything that we need in order to now resurrect our skeleton. Let's try this out. Oh, you know what? There are one or two more things that I totally forgot. When we resurrect him, we need to enable his animator. And actually, he'll enable his aggro by default. So the only thing we need to do is enable his animator. So let's do that. Somewhere we have an on resurrect or resurrect ability here. Basically, revive, bring back to life something. Let's see, revive, revive. Okay. So in revive, we call on revive begin. let's find all references to that, because I think this is where the animator hooks in, basically. Yes, perfect. So on revive begin, we handle revive, which means we set the trigger revive trigger. Okay, good. So what we want to do then is, before we call on revive begin, and let's actually see where I call revive complete from. Okay, so the character animator is sending out the on revive complete, and if we find all references to that, okay, yeah, this is just an IEnumerator. Basically, after a set length, which is the exact length of the resurrection animation, it's going to call on revive complete, which is basically going to do things like enable your aggro or that kind of stuff. Yeah, clear your status effects, reset your health, set your character to alive. Perfect. So right here, before on revive begin, we want to make sure that we actually enable the animator. So if base character does not equal null and base character dot my character unit does not equal null, and base character dot my character unit dot my no, maybe this was my animated unit dot my character animator does not equal null. Let's go to the definition of character animator, and let's just see, do we have an enable animator? Because this is where we actually keep the reference to our animator. Let's find all references to that and see if we have like an enable animator function or something. I actually don't think that we do. Doesn't look like it. We have like animator.enabled anywhere here. Okay, good. So we'll make one then. Just ensuring enable, we have enable root motion. Nothing. Okay, perfect. So we'll do a public void enable animator if animator does not equal null, then animator dot enabled equals true. And that's all that function needs to do. So then basically we just want to call the animated units, character animators, enable animator call. And now our animator will be able to play the animations that we've asked it to as a result of the skeleton resurrecting. So we'll press play. game. We'll go over to the automated telemonster machine. We'll click on the fallen comrade. We'll spawn him. He's dead. We will now cast a thunderstorm over here, somewhere away from him. Okay, we watch our pink cloud go over. It hits him. Oh my goodness, it's working. A black magic ring appears around him. He gets up. He runs over and he attacks us. Oh, this is so sweet. Okay, cool. So now we need to make some attack animations for him and like maybe give him a sword or something like that. Wow, this is going to be awesome. What's going to happen is in the actual cutscene where I'm going to use this ability, we're going to have like bodies laying everywhere, and every single time someone casts an AoE, it's going to send a pink cloud towards them, and it's going to just mean that they're just going to be fighting more and more and more enemies. It's like the bad part of using magic. So let's go ahead and do that then. The other thing I'm thinking is we set the character's level, but we do that after the die call. So I just want to look at set level. We get this as part of orchestrator set level. Let's just see. If we go to set level and go to the definition of that and find all references to that, let's see where it's being called. We're not part of a unit spawn node. It might just be called in orchestrator start. That might be the only place, at least for this guy. Apparently we also call it in base character initialize. Base character set character class. Alright. And base character set character class. Okay. So let's just see when we're actually calling that. This is part of the player character. Part of the save manager. No, okay, so we don't really care about set character class. We do care about orchestrator set level though, I think. Let's find all references to that. Okay. So we run orchestrator start, and then we run character stats.orchestrator set level. So I think what we actually want to do is like this is where we want to make our character like dead. So let's go to the definition of orchestrator start. I'm actually going to remove that from orchestrator start, and we're going to put it in orchestrator set level instead. Now let's see if our enemy spawns with 0 hit points. So we'll pull this down, go to the fallen comrade, spawn him, and he's still got 1200 hit points. Okay. So there's something else that must be happening to set his health. So to do that, I think actually if we go to the reset health method and just add a debug message right there. Let's find out what called that. I just want to look at the stack trace for that. was orchestrator set level. And then it did reset health. Okay. Interesting. Unit spawn node, right. That's what happened. Okay. Unit spawn node sets the level as well, because it can override the level basically. So what do we want to do about that? Set level can basically be called at any time. Let's just go look at the common spawn here. So we instantiate the prefab right here. It goes through all of its startup, or its awake method basically, and then we're calling set level. So since this is coming from the unit spawn node, we have the ability basically to call things manually. And I think I'm going to change the way that we are calling that that die method pretty much. So if we look at spawn dead right here, let's put the if condition actually inside it. So we're going to find all references to that. We'll see where it's called. Right here, I'm going to copy that block of code. I'm going to remove the if statement around it. Then I'm going to go back to spawn dead, and I'm going to put it in here. So what this means is that this, let's actually rename that just to make it more obvious what it does. This is no longer spawn dead, this is try spawning dead. And that means that if you're not supposed to spawn dead, then it's just basically not going to do anything. So now what we can do is we can go back into the unit spawn node here, and immediately after setting the character's level, we can try spawning dead. Now let's try this out, because I want to make sure that he's spawning with no health. He definitely shouldn't have 1200 hit points while he's dead. Okay, much better. So that's exactly what we want to see now. He has 0 out of 1200 hit points. His health bar, funny enough, actually still shows him as having 1200 hit points, which is kind of interesting. But at least his unit frame shows 0 correctly. I wonder if we can do something about that health bar. So the definition of this, we're broadcasting on health changed. And let's see. So right here we're subscribing to on health changed with handle health bar needs update. But I think perhaps this subscription is actually running at a later point. So let's just see that. No, this is running in the start method, so yeah, okay, that's why. Basically, we are not yet subscribed to the handle health bar needs update method, basically. So we're setting his health down way before he's actually receiving the messages. The unit frame, when we click on someone, updates health in real time. So what this means is basically we'll pretty much want to call one of these directly. Like manually. Either that or when we instantiate the health bar, maybe we should just set the health properly rather than just setting it to like 100%, which we probably hardcode by default. So let's go to the definition of that. Let's go to the definition of that. Find all references to that and see who's subscribing. It is our nameplate controller. And this one runs an on health changed method. So we set the nameplate unit. Let's see. We set the health bar to active or not. What I think I want to do is look and see if there's somewhere when we're instantiating this thing. Set faction color might be okay. Let's find all references to that. This is done in the beginning. I actually just want to put in a debug message here and actually see when this create event subscriptions is being done. Because I want to try to find the right place to basically hook in and get this health bar update to happen pretty much. So this is in set nameplate unit. Which is in spawn nameplate. Spawn nameplate happens in add nameplate. Which is called in initialize nameplate. Okay, which is called in the start method of character unit, and in the orchestrator start, and on enable. Okay, so basically I think the best place is going to be to put it right in pretty much just the set nameplate unit. Okay, so we have under nameplate unit two functions, has health, or basically this has health, and we can subscribe. We don't have a way of querying our nameplate unit for their actual active health. And nameplate unit is an interface, so I think what we need to do is we actually need to add some methods to the nameplate unit interface that return the current health and the maximum health. I think that's going to be the way to go. So if we go look at this has health, it's just a boolean. So let's make another boolean, current health. Whoops, no, sorry. That's going to be an int. And another int called max health. Our inanimate units are basically just going to automatically return 1 for those. So if we go to the implementation of this, you can see how in inanimate unit has health, we just return false. Okay. So we'll also just basically be returning 1 for everything. So public int current health, and we're just going to return 1. Then make a public int max health, and just return 1. We're going to take these and we're going to put them now into the character unit. And we'll return actual real values here. So if our base character dot my character stats does not equal null, actually if base character does not equal null and base character dot my character stats does not equal null, then we want to return base character dot my character stats dot current health. Perfect. We want to do the same thing in max health. Returning by max health. So now we we should actually basically have a way to query for the health rather than just relying on event subscriptions. So let's go back to the method where we're adding that nameplate and subscribing to those events and just perform an initial nameplate update. So what we'll do is we'll call onHealthChanged with nameplate unit, and onHealthChanged has a max health and a current health, so we want the nameplate unit dot max health and the nameplate unit dot current health. Okay, and this will allow us to perform basically a manual update immediately upon spawning the nameplate. In like almost all cases, this will result in the thing still being at 100% health, but of course in the case of our dead guy, hopefully it'll result in the thing showing 0% health. As long as we don't get like a division by 0 error or something like that, which I could actually legitimately see happening. That was neat. Wow, several null references there. Okay. So okay. Interesting. What key was not found in the dictionary there? I guess primary stat modifier, stat buff type. This is really interesting. This seems like some sort of weird race condition or something potentially. Let's see the stack trace on that. I'm really interested. Okay. Basically what's happening is we attempted to perform an initial update of our nameplate before the primary stat modifiers dictionary had been set. Okay. So this is one of those places where like ordering matters. So let's see if there's like a good way to fix that, basically. I suppose what we could do is just ensure that the key even exists. So if primary stat modifiers dot contains key stat buff type, then we can add that to alter the return values. Let's just check if that works. Okay, that's a little better. Oh yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Okay, our fallen comrade has 0 out of 1200 health. His health bar is completely black, letting us know that he is totally 100% dead. And if we cast a thunderstorm spell anywhere, we will get a pink cloud leaving our body, heading over to the fallen comrade. Oh, this is so cool. Wait a minute. That wasn't the right animation. That totally did not seem like the right animation. Let's try that again. I'm just gonna throw a meteor shower on this guy to kill him real quick here. Alright, let's spawn another one of these guys. Okay. I want to see that animation again because he's supposed to be floating. He is not floating, he's getting up. This is our normal character get up animation. Okay. Let's try to figure out what happened there. So we'll go to the fallen comrade animation profile. And this is indeed our revive clip. If I click on that, this is the resurrection clip, and he is most definitely floating. Okay, so what this means is it looks like we didn't set the resurrection clip override. Let's see if we can figure out why not. So our default revive clip is AnyRPG example getup. Let's go into our system configuration manager here. And I want to find all references to that example getup spell. And it looks actually like we potentially may not even be referencing it. Yeah, what do you know? So if we find all references to the my default death clip, this is where we're setting our overrides. No, actually this is fine. Okay, so if my current attack animation profile.myRevive clip does not equal null, then if the override controller clip list contains my default revive clip, oh, we set it to the levitated clip. That's not correct. It still wasn't actually working, but interestingly enough, so we actually want this to be my revive clip. So what we need to do is make sure that our character controller is actually using AnyRPG example getup as the animation for reviving. It is. using AnyRPG example GitHub. Okay. It's still weird that that's not necessarily working. Let's try one other thing actually. I want to go to the human unarmed attacks. Human unarmed attacks does not contain a revive clip. I wonder if that's why. If I set the revive clip here, just out of curiosity, to AnyRPG example GitHub, I wonder if this will work. What I want to do is also write a debug message here. And just see current animation profile contains revive clip. And this is not going to be a log error, it'll just be a regular log. And this is character animator dot, I think this is set animation clip overrides or something like that. Set animation clip overrides. Okay. Let's just make sure that the one in the system configuration manager is actually set or named properly. So AnyRPG example GitHub, basically camel case. AnyRPG example GitHub camel case. Yeah, it looks fine. Okay, so let's press play. And I just want to see if that debug message even prints. Let's go back to the console. Current animation profile contains revive clip. Okay, so that's good. Oh yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay, cool. Now it's working. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so next up, this guy needs a way to attack us. So we have to find him a sword. Let's try to find a nice sword. swords in here. What I'm looking for is something that looks like a cutlass, because this guy looks like he should have a cutlass. And I think I did have one in here before, but it's not called cutlass exactly. And I don't remember what the actual name was. Let's see just if we can find one. This one's not bad. Not exactly what I'm looking for though. There's some really cool free ones available. But I know in the old skeleton model, I actually had a sword in his hand, which I really liked. I went and deleted it accidentally though. But I know I had like a perfect cutlass basically that worked like really well for the way that this model looked. Got like a nice katana there. This is like almost the style that I'm going for. Yeah, that's funny. I'm having trouble actually finding the right sword again here. I think my problem is that I've downloaded way too many swords since the last time that I did this. There's like, if you look on the asset store, there's like probably more than 100 free swords you can actually download. Just keep looking through all these. See if I can find that same cutlass. No, nothing. Okay. I'm gonna just pop over to the asset store here for a second because I know that I do actually have a pack here. Where do I want to go? Do I have my assets open? I do. Okay, perfect. So let's search for weapon, because not weapon and skeleton, just weapon. I know I have like an absolutely perfect cutlass. No, I haven't labeled that, so it might actually be the old label weapon with a capital W, because for some hilarious reason the Unity asset store is case sensitive when you're searching for tags. So this one's pretty cool. Ah, there it is. Perfect. 7 swords. It's one of these. It's this cutlass right here. Let's go see if I can find that. Seven swords. There it is. I don't know how I missed it when I was looking through all that stuff here. it is, the rapier. Maybe, actually. Broadsword, katana, longsword, rapier, saber. That's why I couldn't find it, because the name isn't sword, the name is saber. Okay, perfect. So we got saber with colliders. I'm going to Control D to duplicate this. I'm going to call it AnyRPG saber with colliders. Perfect. And I'm going to open this prefab up, and I am of course going to remove all the colliders because we don't actually use those in AnyRPG. We want our swords. Yeah, that still looks fine. Okay. So now we need to make a weapon for it. So we'll make a saber weapon. So to do that, we can just basically copy any old weapon. So I have a short sword weapon. I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate. And I'm just going to call it saber. We'll name it saber. And just call it a saber. Resource description iron sword is fine because that's just basically used for the icon. Dynamic level is fine. I don't want to give our enemy too powerful a weapon, so it's going to be poor quality. The equipment slot is main hand, and the holdable object will be called saber. We're not going to allow this thing to give our enemy any stats because we don't want to make him too terribly overpowered. And I'm not going to learn any abilities specifically from this weapon. If we look at the default attack animation profile, I'm going to leave that blank because what that basically does is overrides like idle stuff, so we don't actually need this. The skeleton already has his own animation profiles that include animations for swinging swords. For the weapon skill, I'm not going to require a sword, and for the default hit audio profile we have a sword effect 1 long, which is totally fine. So now we need to go make the prefab profile for that. So once again, I'm just going to go using the short sword as an example. Control D to duplicate the short sword. Call this the saber. Set the name to saber, blank out the description, and we're just going to set the position and rotation to 0 for everything, the scale to 1. We're going to set the sheath position and sheathed rotation to 0 for starters, and then we're going to go find our saber. Saber. I spelled that wrong. It's S-A-B-R-E. Okay. This is the AnyRPG saber with colliders. So I might as well fix the spelling of our saber as well. Okay, and now we just need to figure out where our skeleton is going to be holding this. So to do that, we go to his model, so the fallen comrade. We'll open up his prefab and search for some hand bones here. So he'll be holding it in the BIP01R hand. Let's go find that. BIP01R hand. So I'm just going to copy that. When the thing is sheathed, I want it hanging off of his hip. So to do that, let's find a good spot basically. I'll just actually hang it off of his pelvis. So in this case, it'll be bippo1 underscore pelvis. So we'll go back to the saber, prefab profile. The sheathed target bone will be bip01 underscore pelvis, and the held target bone will be bip01 R hand. Next thing we need to do is make sure that he has an equipment profile so that he can actually equip this thing. So to do that, we will go to the, actually we need to make a equipment profile for him. So we have equipment profiles in our resources folder. These are in the shared resources folder. So if we go to equipment profile AI, and we can just copy any old one, so I'm just going to duplicate the zombie equipment profile, and I'm going to call this the Fallen Comrade equipment profile. Fallen Comrade will get a saber by default. Now let's go to the Fallen Comrade unit and apply that to him so he can equip it. So we'll go to the Fallen Comrade unit, and let's just see, make sure he has a character equipment manager. I don't think we have given him one yet, so we'll give him one. And I believe I call it the AI equipment manager. Perfect. And the equipment profile will be Fallen Comrade. So now hopefully he'll be able to equip the saber sword. Let's go test that out. And we'll need to make some adjustments to it. When it's sheathed and when it's in his hand, it'll probably be facing in the wrong direction, so we'll probably need to change the rotation of it. Could not find holdable object saber while initializing an attachment node. So that's because I spelled it wrong. So if we go back to the weapon, I should be attempting to use saber instead. Okay, so we can load up our game. Whoops. I think I just loaded the wrong guy. Yeah. Let's go back to the main menu and load up the right guy this time. Okay, now we'll head over to the automated telemonster machine, go down to our Fallen Comrade. Yeah, there we go, cool. So he's got the thing equipped, but like I said, it's got the wrong sort of rotation there. Let's just spawn him and go take a look at that, and we'll just fix that. We can fix it right now, even while he's lying dead here on the ground. So to do that, we're going to go look for the saber. We're going to add a component to it called show real Euler angles, which will give us the correct rotation. We're going to go into the scene mode, hit F to focus. And let's have this thing, like I said, we'll have it hanging off of his hip. So if we look at this guy and pretend he's standing upright right now, and in fact, you know what we can do? We can even make him standing upright just for fun. So just for fun, I'm going to position him like this so we can get a little bit better of an idea about what that sword is going to look like when hanging off of his hip. So I want it hanging off the right hip basically. So we're going to take this thing, we're going to set the pivot to local so it's moved in response to him. Let's see, if you're grabbing a saber, you probably want it like, actually, let's see. You know what? I think I want it on the left hip because he's going to be grabbing it with his right hand pretty much, which which means you would expect him to reach over. Yeah, okay. Reach over with the guard forward, pretty much. I'm just reaching my own hip right now to see how this is going to work out. So we want to move this back and out a little bit, maybe up like that, and bring it back there. Let's try to get the rotation right here. So rotate it out this way a little bit. Maybe more that way. Maybe a little bit down. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, it doesn't really have anywhere to hang off of because he's a skeleton, but we sort of need it just a sheath position anyway. So I'm going to unpause real quick, and now we've got position and Euler angles values. We're going to pause this, and we're going to go back to the saber holdable object. We'll add a new inspector tab over here, and we'll copy these values into the sheathed position. So sheathed position on the bottom. And then we'll copy the show real Euler angles values into the sheathed rotation here. Okay, there we go. And now we want to do the values for when it's in his hand. So to do that, yeah, that's not bad. Okay, to do that, we're going to have to bring him to life. So cast thunderstorm, let the cloud hit him. Now it's going to bring him to life, and then he should basically equip the sword the minute he's alive. There he is. And of course his angle is really funny, but that doesn't really matter. All we need to do is really line this thing up with his hands. So let's go look at him and get this thing aligned with his hand properly. So we'll click on the sword here, spin it over this way, spin it around, pull it back toward us, move it over and up a little bit, and then let's just go look and make sure that that's lined up properly. Not quite yet, so we'll spin it around this way a little more, and then move it up so it's like in the center of his hand there. Let's look at it from a different angle. We want to pull it more like in the middle of his palm and make sure that his fingers are properly wrapped around that, and I think that's pretty good. So we're going to unpause, and now the show real Euler angles script will have properly updated. Lock and unlock the inspector. Just make sure we're looking at the right object here. Yeah, looks good. So now we want to go back to this inspector over here. We want to grab the saber object. We want to set these positions, and this time this will be the regular position, which is the he's holding it in his hand position. Then we'll go and grab the Euler angles from the show real Euler angles script, and we'll put those in the regular rotation here. Okay, that should be good in order to get the sword to show up properly on his body. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a couple of attacks. So to do that, we're going to go add some animated attacks. Let's see what a good example of an attack is. Recently, we just look for some existing animated abilities. So under resources, we have base abilities and animated attacks and AI. Perfect. So I'm just going to use the Light Fury attack. That one's fine. And we're going to call this Fallen Comrade Attack. We'll name that Fallen attack. Description, fallen comrade attack. Generic sword icon is fine. We don't really care about weapon affinities. He can cast this at any time. There are no holdable objects because there's no special spell effects for this. For the animation profile name, we'll call that Fallen Comrade Attack. And then the ability effect, we will create one also called Fallen Comrade Attack. This is an auto attack ability, which is fine, which means it uses melee range. You have to have a live enemy target in order to cast it, and it uses the animation cast time, so that's fine. Then we're going to go make the attack effect here. So we have a Light Fury attack, which is an attack effect. We can pretty much just copy this one because it's almost exactly the same as what we need. We'll hit Control D to duplicate. We'll call it Fallen Comrade Attack. Change this to Fallen Comrade Attack. Melee range, can cast on enemy, requires a live target. That's great. There are no prefabs, so none of this stuff really matters. Does physical damage and uses health amount of 10. So this looks pretty good. Now all we need to do is go make the animation profile for the Fallen Comrade attack. So to do that, we already have, I believe, another Light Fury attack, which is an animation profile. This is perfect. We're just going to copy this because it's already in the right folder. So I'll hit Control D to duplicate, make that animation profile. Call it the Fallen Comrade Attack. Fallen Comrade Attack. Alright, perfect. Now for the animation clips, there's going to be 3 of them, and we're just going to have him randomly pick one of the animations from his unit. So let's go find his unit where we put it. And he has 3 attacks: Swing Heavy, Swing Normal, and Swing Quick. We'll pull Swing Heavy into the first one, Swing Normal into the second one, and Swing Quick into the third one. And now he's just going to automatically cycle through all of those. So now what we need to do is basically give the Fallen Comrade attack to our Fallen Comrade. So to do that, we will go into his unit profile, unlock the inspector, give him one learned ability called Fallen Comrade Attack. Now let's just make sure those are all properly configured. So we have an animated ability called Fallen Comrade Attack that uses the animation profile Fallen Comrade Attack, which cycles through these 3 animations. When it hits, it does a Fallen Comrade Attack effect, which is this thing that actually does the damage, which is going to basically do damage to a player's health based on your player's strength or other attack power affecting stats. So the last thing that we need to do is make sure that these animations are properly configured. Animations do damage when they hit, which means we have to add animation events to them. So with this Swing Heavy, he's going to hit right there, basically. So I'm going to scroll down to Events and click this little thing here and add a hit event right there. Oops. Let's get that back up there. Now, one of the things that I noticed here is that he actually steps forward. So to be totally honest, I don't actually want him to use the Swing Heavy animation. I think I'm going to remove that from his profile because I don't want an animation that causes his position to change. Let's look at the Swing Normal animation and just check if that moves him. No, so he doesn't really move at all with this one, so that's more like what we're looking for here. So we'll go back to the Swing Normal, we'll move this. He sort of dodges and then boom, he hits right there. So we'll click that little whatever that thing is, add a hit event, hit apply. want to see, does he do a second hit? Not really, he just sort of brings it back. Okay, perfect. So this is basically his hit. Just swing, hit, and stand still again. Okay, that looks pretty good. And finally, we want to do the swing quick. So swing quick, right there is where the hit is. So we'll, in the events tab again, add a hit event and apply that. And then let's just look at that a little bit bigger here. The first, no, what happened there? I think we jumped back to the wrong animation. Okay, there we go. Now we're on swing quick. What is happening with Unity here? Unity, what are you doing? Unity keeps on deciding that it's gonna change the animation that I'm playing as soon as I maximize. Okay, so right here he does a hit, and you know what? It kind of looks like he does another hit right there. So let's add another hit event, hit, and apply that. Okay, so now the only thing we need to do is remove swing heavy from his animation profile. So fallen comrade, attack. I'll just move swing quick to the first one and then set that to 2. Okay, so now he just does swing quick and swing normal. And I think that should be good. Let's press play. I think he will now be able to actually damage our character instead of just running over and standing beside us and looking scary. So we'll go to the automated telemonster machine, we'll click on the fallen comrade, we'll spawn him. He's got a sword, the sword is sort of hanging off his hip, that looks pretty cool, I think we're okay with that. We're gonna cast a thunderstorm, which is gonna cause our character to lose some life force, which will then bring the fallen comrade back to life. He will pick up the sword, put it in his hand, wander over. Oh yeah, look at that. There we go. Perfect. These animations are a little funny. A lot of people have mentioned that the animations that come with this skeleton are not the best animations in the whole world, but you know what? They're good enough. So that's pretty cool. I'm liking it. Still got the thing hanging off his hip. You know, we could do a little bit more to maybe make it hang like perfectly downwards or something like that. But I'm happy with that. Of course, my character with his staff is just beating this guy down. Now, let's try something. He's dead. Let's cast some more magic, because theoretically, he can wake up anytime now that we have this ability that goes and wakes up anything near us. That is so cool. So basically, every time that you use magic, you'll be just creating more enemies, and we can just come over and keep resurrecting him as much as we want. Actually, let's see what happens here. I want to like kill him with the thunderstorm. So we're gonna like zap him until he's dead, right? Oh, you know what? We can't. It didn't. I was kind of hoping that if we killed him with a thunderstorm, it would immediately bring him back to life, but that doesn't work because he wasn't actually dead when the pink cloud came out. See, now he was dead, and the pink cloud went out and found him, brought him back to life, and he can run over and he can attack us again. Okay, cool. I am happy with that. That's pretty much all I wanted to accomplish for this episode. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up the video, subscribe to the Cohesion YouTube channel, or just leave a note in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.